If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Lincoln Way Education Association 2017 School District School Board Candidates Forum. Easy for me to say. My name is Tim Conway, and I'm the president of the Lincoln Way Education Association. And I'm also this evening's moderator. Before we begin, I would like to thank some special people who are in attendance. First, the candidates who have chosen to volunteer their time and effort to serve on the school board. On behalf of the LWEA, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight, and I hope that you can share your vision for the future of this district. I also want to thank my colleagues at the LWEA for all of their help in preparing for this evening. The LWEA represents the over 400 certified teachers that teach in District 210. They are in the trenches every day, day in, day out, with your children, and I am proud of the job that they do every day. I also want to thank those members of the community who are here tonight, and those that emailed their questions. This is your district. You are all stakeholders and have every right to voice your opinion and exercise your vote, which I hope you will do on April 4th. There are a few housekeeping items that we must address before we begin tonight. The format of this evening's forum was sent to each of the candidates. The questions were not. The evening will be divided essentially into two sections. The first part, after the introductions, will be to address email questions sent by the community and LWEA members. We have been collecting these questions for the last month. As you can imagine, there were many duplicate questions. I have done my best to eliminate them. I then put the questions in a category depending on the subject matter, and I will announce the category before I ask the question. Because of time limitations, it will not be possible to ask all of the questions of all of the candidates. However, there are some questions where I will request that all of the candidates respond. There will also be individual questions that I will ask one or more specific candidates to address. There will be a 1-minute response time for the candidates. The second part of the evening will be for audience members to ask questions. The same rules will apply: 1 minute for the question, 1 minute for the response. Please direct your questions to specific candidates and not the whole panel, unless it's a yes or no question. Again, we have very tight time constraints. We will be done by 9 p.m. As the moderator, I reserve the right to change the direction or discussion if we are getting off topic. There will be 2 lines for audience members to line up and ask questions. Please do not do so until asked. This forum is about the future of this district. Tonight's forum is an exercise in democracy, small d. To that end, I would ask that the audience allow for civil discourse between the candidates and the audience and each other. As Evelyn Beatrice Hall put it when paraphrasing Voltaire, "I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." All of these candidates deserve to be heard. Please refrain from any interruptions. And we will leave 15 minutes at the end, so we will stop at 8:45 for closing statements. If I could impose on you a show of hands for those of you that have questions you would like to ask tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, all right, great. I will make sure that we leave enough time for that. I'm trying to gauge how many email questions I should be asking. All right, with all that said, Let's have the candidates introduce themselves. Please tell us who you are and why you are seeking a seat on the board. We'll start with Mr. Yantub.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conway, and thank you to the LWEA for organizing this event, and thank you for all the other candidates for coming out, and a special thanks to all the community members, and in particular, any of you that are current Lincoln Way students that are here tonight. My name is Ben Yamtub, and my wife and I moved to the western end of Mokena, just down the street from here, back in October of 2015. I joined the community from Lincolnshire, where I served as a school board member for 8 years as part of the Lincolnshire Prairie View District 103, and education is really my hobby and my passion. My father has been a school superintendent in 3 states. My sister has been an elementary school teacher, a special ed specialist, and as well as an elementary school principal. I'm here tonight and running as a candidate because I have a vision that we operate this school differently than we have in the past. I have a vision that we all work together as a community to make it a much better school district and build for the future. The challenges we've had over the past several years have led to an environment of fear and mistrust within the community, and it's turned community member against community member. My number one goal is to change the environment because it's the only way we're going to move forward as a community. And as a starting point, I'm always going to operate under the assumption that we all want the same end, a thriving school district that effectively educates our kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Yakos.
Again, I want to first thank Mr. Conway and the Teachers Union for organizing this forum. I also want to thank everyone here tonight for taking time out of their busy schedules to hear from all the candidates. It just reaffirms that our community is proactive and wants to be involved in the decision-making process. My name is Gus Yakos, and like many of you, my wife and I moved to this area specifically for the schools. After seeing what happened to District 210, I felt an obligation to do something about it. My passion has always been to teach and help students grow. I come from a long line of educators. My mother was a teacher, my wife currently teaches in Frankfort, and I've been a high school educator for 17 years and also serving as activities director for 4 years. As a teacher and activities director, I was that individual that questioned things when something didn't seem right, which in many cases wasn't the most popular stance to take. I was brought up to stand up for what I believe in. This is one of the main reasons that I want to run for District 210 School Board. I felt that there's a need to not only question what was happening to our district, but more importantly, work on solutions. I want to be an advocate for not only the students, but for the teachers. Their voices are important. Since they're in direct contact with our kids every single day, they tend to be forgotten. I'm not a politician, I'm a teacher and a coach. I'm a realist, and I am direct with both my students and my athletes. I want to focus on solutions rather than dwell on the past.
Time.
Thank you.
Nobody's looking at me, so I'm just going to say time.
Thank you.
We did a whole thing backstage,
like a
but
speech
it's not
tournament
working.
over here. Okay, that's what we got here.
Mr. Talley.
Okay, is the time started?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to thank LWEA and Mr. Conway for the invite, and especially those people coming out. It shows that there's an interest here. I'm Lee Artelli, and I've lived in the Lincoln Way High School District 210 and the Brookside Glen subdivision of Tinley Park for 14 years. I am currently retired after 30 years in education, most of which were in Thornton Township High School District 205. I have 1 undergraduate degree from the University of Nebraska and 3 master's degrees from Governor State University. I have experience as a classroom teacher, building administrator, athletic coach, activity sponsor, and I've served on many buildings and district committees, including the District Fiscal Task Force Committee and the Strategic Planning Committee. I was also president of the Old SICA Conference for 2 years and served on the SWSC Activity Board for 4 years. I am a person who has spent my entire career in high school education in both instructional and administrative capacities. I worked on the development of several school strategic plans and know the ins and outs of how a school is run. In addition, I've spent time at conferences in Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Springfield, dealing with the issues of comprehensive school reform and school financing. One of my strengths is that I've been through a similar situation. The district I worked in was at one time nearly $100 million in debt. District Fiscal Task Force was formed to remediate this debt, so I have been through this. And lastly, anyone who knows me knows that I'm very passionate about education and kids.
Time.
I would like to think of myself as an advocate for both. I believe I have the experience, expertise, and a certain skill set to help improve this district. Thank you. I always talk long. I don't
That's
know
all
why.
right.
Apologize.
Ms. Down.
I also would like to thank LWEA for having this event. I'd also like to thank all of the other candidates for stepping up and offering to serve our community. And finally, I would like to thank you. It's very heartening to see that our community came out. Your interest in making sure that our district is the best that it can be is truly commendable. My name is Karen Town, and I moved into the district about 16 years ago. Both of my children went through the Lincoln Way system. My daughter went to East for 2 years and graduated from North in 2010, and my son graduated in 2014. My husband is also a Lincoln Way grad. In fact, I think there's a tiny picture of him out in the hallway there if you look for it. But Lincoln Way has been an integral part of our family. When my children were in high school, I was very involved and spent many, many evenings at all 4 of the high schools, attending athletic events and many other types of events. And it's actually fun to see some of my kids' former teachers and coaches in the audience tonight. I care very deeply about this district, so when I learned about some of the problems that were plaguing it, I decided I would try to help.
Sorry.
Sorry.
As soon as I learn how to operate my phone, I'll be. All right, Ms. Vasquez, Pleasant.
Yes, it's a
Could you pronounce your name for me?
Vasilakis.
Okay,
Pleasant.
thank you.
Just like it's spelled. Bring. Hi, now you guys all know my name. I'm Kathy Vasilakis Pleasant, and I'm hoping to be elected to a 4-year term to represent you on the Lincoln Way Board of Ed. I have resided in the village of Frankfort for almost 23 years. My husband of 27 years and I have 3 sons, 2 of whom are currently at Lincoln Way East and 1 a 2014 East graduate. I would like to be on the board so I can help secure the district's financial integrity. One of the ways I plan to accomplish this is by the implementation of a strong system of checks and balances. My background is in auditing. I graduated from Loyola University with a bachelor's in accounting. I've worked in public accounting for a Fortune 500 company and most recently for the Will County Auditor as deputy. The majority of my career has been spent in the public sector working with fund accounting. I currently serve on the district's Finance and Building Advisory Committee. I would like to thank each and every one of you for giving your time up and joining us this evening, and I would like to thank you, Mr. Conway, for inviting me.
Thank you. Mr. Janik.
Yes, thank you. Again, I would also like to thank the LWEA for hosting tonight's forum. Obviously, this is an important election, so it's important that everyone here gets to know the candidates before they go vote on April 4th. And I would also like to acknowledge my wife, Molly. She's going to kill me for doing this. She's here in the audience tonight. But without her support, which she supported me 100% in this endeavor, I wouldn't be able to participate in this process. For those of you who don't know, again, my name is Aaron Janik. I've lived in Mokina for 8 years with my wife, Molly, who herself is a lifelong resident. We have 3 children. Luke will be a freshman here next year, and then we have Madison, who's 4, and William, 2. So in a few short years, there'll be a following behind them. I'm a licensed attorney. I went to NIU for my undergrad and then the John Marshall Law School for my law degree. I worked during law school at a small law firm that counted as its main client the Chicago Teachers Union. While there as a law clerk, I handled any task I was given, but I was hired on as an attorney after law school, and I represented tenured teachers in dismissal hearings in front of the Illinois State Board of Education. They were called E3 processes back then. I also represented paraprofessionals in disciplinary hearings in front of the Chicago Board of Education. And I also represented the union's interests in state and federal court, including lawsuits relative to school closings.
Thank you. Mr. Kirkney.
All right, I'd like to thank the LEAW for hosting this and everyone for coming out. I believe this is actually the most important election on the ballot this spring. My name is Joe Kirking. I lived in the district for 22 years with my wife, Julie. I have 3 children, Alex, Evan, and Jenna, all graduated from Lincoln Way West. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting from Lewis University. I also received a master's of business administration from Lewis as well. I've been very active in the community. I serve on the President's St. Joe's Medical Center Health Board. I serve on the Centers for Disability Service Board, and I'm also on the Council's Regents out at Lewis University. I'm a past member of the New Lenox 122 District Board of Education, and I'm also a past president of Lincoln Way Music Boosters. Currently, I am an executive vice president at First Secure Bank, and I have over 30 years of financial services experience, and I am also an adjunct professor at Joliet Junior College in both business and management. I believe education is our industry in this area. There's nothing more important. People move from all over the Chicago area to these suburbs to get the K through 12 experience. I was fortunate. My family had a great educational experience through the Lincoln Way community, and I'm here to make sure that that continues for future generations.
Thank you. Ms. Molinari.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Dee Molinari, currently the board president for Lincoln Way 210, seeking your support for a 4-year term. I'm number 5 on the ballot. A little about myself. I'm not a negative person. The past 20 months have been extremely difficult as our district has been portrayed negatively. It's time to move on. I've been instrumental in moving our district forward and creating transparency through various initiatives. I believe in education, the value of an excellent education that Lincoln Way provides for our kids. Despite our financial difficulties, our education has remained strong. Something else about me is that I love Lincoln Way. I was thrilled when I was appointed to the board in 2011. In 2013, the new administration began. Another bit about myself. I am dedicated and committed to serving Lincoln Way. Through all the controversy, I have stayed strong. I could have ran, but I stayed the course, and I'm asking for your vote to continue. I'm number 5 on the ballot. Please visit molinari2017.com for more information on specifics to my candidacy.
Thank you. Mr. Ripp.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. My name is Robert Ripp, and I'm running for one of the 2-year seats for this April 4th election. My wife, Stacy, and I moved to this area about 18 years ago, in large part due to the school district. We've experienced firsthand the exceptional educational and extracurricular opportunities that the school district has afforded our two children. The reason that I'm running for the district is I have a few main goals. I would like to restore the financial stability of the district, help to restore the financial stability of the district, help to increase financial transparency. I'd like to help to contain cost, increase revenue, and also strengthen board governance. My background is I'm a certified public accountant. I've been in public practice for 25 years. I own a CPA firm in Frankfurt, and I also believe, like many others on this board, that education is the most important thing of our community, and I'm committed to helping the school district move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Janice Doyle.
I, like everyone else up here, would like to thank everyone for taking the time today to come out and to thank Tim for putting this together and inviting all of us. My name is Beth Janice Doyle. I think that I'm probably the least known candidate out of the 13 that appear on the stage today, and I'd hopefully would like to change that for all of you this evening, so thank you for coming. I have lived in Mokena, District 159, for 12 years. I've been married for 15 years. I have one daughter. She is currently a 7th grader at Mokena Junior High, so she will be attending Lincoln Way Central in about a year and a half. My parents have lived in Frankfurt for almost 17 years in District 157C. They're both retired. They own their home, and so I have a pretty vested interest in their well-being as well. I'm a high school English teacher. I have been teaching English for 16 years in District 218, which is in Oak Lawn. I have a master's degree in teaching and leadership. I have another 54 graduate credit hours in like a variety of educational topics. Also, for 8 of the 16 years that I've been teaching, I have team taught special education sections of English classes. So I am very familiar with special education, IEPs, 504 plans, accommodations, things like that. You're probably wondering why I chose to run with very little, background in some of these more political things. But I kind of been following this crisis for the last couple of years, and I literally woke up one day and thought, if not me, then who? So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kozel.
Good evening. I would like to thank the entire Lincoln Way Teachers Union for sponsoring this event. My name is Chris Kozel, and I'm a proud graduate of Lincoln Way, a husband, a father of 3, including 1 graduate from Central, 1 child who is now enrolled in West, and 1 future student. and I am also a lifelong resident of New Lenox. I stand here today as a candidate representing the entire district, not just one school or one issue, a defender of taxpayers' rights and an advocate for the students. I stand here today ready to defend anyone's right to speak their opinion while moving the narrative on Lincoln Way to our accomplishments while continuing to correct our deficits with the cooperations of taxpayers, community, faculty, staff, students of our Lincoln Way community. Despite the narrative that has been blasted by some, the last few years have seen some remarkable achievements by this institution and its students, from state titles in athletics to national recognition of all of our schools, and even being ranked the #1 safest school in Illinois. These accomplishments, along with countless others, are part due to the passion of the people in this room. That passion for Lincoln Way is infectious and palpable no matter where you live in the district or what school you attend.
Time.
I thank you for the passion and your attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Kozel. Mr. Lucetti.
I'd like to start by thanking Mr. Conway and the LWEA for putting this forum together. My name is Chris Lucetti, and I'm running for a 4-year term. I was appointed to the board about a year ago. I am a 30-year resident of the district and a proud Lincoln Way graduate. I have 2 children who attend Lincoln Way Central and a 7th grader. Like most of you in this room, my wife and I selected this area to raise our family because of the schools. I understand the importance of Lincoln Way to this entire district. I am running because I want to continue to help Lincoln Way recover from the financial challenges it faces while maintaining and enhancing the district's high academic standards. Despite the financial challenges, the educational quality continues to reach new achievement levels. This is a testament to the quality of the teachers, students, and families in this district. We need to reestablish the district's strong financial foundation to ensure that the district can deliver on its mission to provide the experiences and opportunities necessary to maximize the academic and social growth of all students. I believe that my background in finance, I've been a investment officer for trust accounts for 20 years, is a perfect background to help the district maintain and fix the financial issues we are facing.
Thank you. Mr. Kostick.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming out. Thank you, Mr. Conway. Thank you to the LWA. My name is Joe Kostick. I grew up in New Lenox. I moved down to the city. I went to Loyola for 4 years where I earned my finance degree, followed by John Marshall Law School where I received my law degree in 1997. My wife and I met in the city. We married, and like many on this panel and probably many of you, when it came time, when we started our family, I wanted to move back here for my children to have a Lincoln Way education, even better than the one I had. Our district has grown to triple the size that it was 27 years ago when I graduated, and it's still a wonderful place. As mentioned earlier, despite the problems that we are currently enduring, we've got some wonderful statistics as well. Our graduation rate is at an all-time high. Our composite ACT score is at an all-time high. Make no mistake about it, these financial times are difficult, and these are problems that need to be addressed. In addition, we have to maintain our level of academic excellence. Without it, our community will suffer. These schools are the backbone of our community. We have been operating at deficits for several years.
Time.
And I hope to continue to be a part of the solution in maintaining surpluses moving forward and fixing the financial issues and maintaining the academic excellence. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of the candidates. As I mentioned in my opening, there were several categories that I put questions, email questions in. By far, the largest category had to do with campuses opening and closing and the configuration of the district. So my first question is going to be for all of the candidates, and it will not require much more than 3 or 4 words. Based on the current revenues and expenditures, what school configuration do you favor? which schools should be open. And we will start with Mr. Kostic and make our way around the table.
I favor the current configuration of the schools.
Mr. Lucetti.
Current configuration of the schools.
Current configuration of the schools, Mr. Kozel.
Current configuration of the schools and continue to move forward.
Current configuration of the schools.
The current configuration of the schools, as this year we will have a surplus.
The current configuration of the schools.
Current configuration of the schools?
I'm going to veer off that track, I think. I think that we do not have enough information or had not had enough independent information to make that decision. So I would like to say that if I am elected, I would like to revisit the subject matter and look at all our assets and look at all our expenditures and revenues and operating expenses of each school and then make a decision. And that was more than 3 words. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I guess my only question is, you know, for the last 18 months to 2 years, the finances have been made pretty public. So I'm not sure what is it that you think you're not seeing.
So, to answer the question.
No, this is for Ms. Pleasant.
Oh, you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I am not convinced that the information available by population and schools and what we need to bring our schools up to par or continue to keep them up to par, that I'm aware of all that information. That is what I feel.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Down.
So at this time, I would not be in favor of moving any students because it was so difficult at the time that it was done. However, I agree that we need to, for the future, weigh all of the options, again, based on independent research and also looking at costs of going forward in terms of maintenance and those kind of things. But at this time, I would leave it.
Thank you. Mr. Talley.
I favor 3 schools, and like Ms. Town, I think you have to go back and look at the financials and of the long term. I'm a long-term guy, not only 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, viability of everything. And again, I think through this entire process that we weren't given the right financial or truthful financial information. So I think you have to go back and evaluate all that and then make a rational decision, which also involves the community, the teachers, the business people, and other people who have expertise in that matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yakos.
Currently, I have no immediate plans to change the configuration as of right now, of course. But I think the key is, again, we have to find what the true data is. And I know that you had stated that what has been shown to us is the true data, but in the past, that has been shown to us before, and we found out that that's not true. So until we get professional audits done, operational costs from each individual school to see what the best configuration is and getting the community involved in these discussions, then there's no way that we can as a board, make a decision to move forward. And again, short and long-term goals, we have to look at what's best for interest for not only the students, but then for the community.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Youngton.
I favor keeping the current configuration for any of the students that are currently in school, but I believe we need to explore what other options there may be, and we need to look at what, in the long run, what will be best for the kids, what the community can support, and what our finances can support.
Okay, thank you. Another question that was emailed in, and this is directed to the citizen slate, District 210 citizen slate. Why do you want to see each individual school's budget and spending? Is this a precursor to gathering evidence to reopen North? Any of you on the slate could answer that.
You know, Mr. Conway, it's hard to hear because of the, the acoustics for some reason. I don't understand.
I'll repeat the question.
Yeah.
Why do you want to see individual school budgets and spending? Is this a precursor to gathering evidence to reopen North?
Well, I'll answer that. I think any corporation that has subsidiaries and smaller divisions within it would be able to cost out each one of those. And the fact that our district never did that before is very odd. I think that we truly would have to look at the cost of each. How can you really make an informed decision when you don't know what the costs and benefits are for each part of your corporation? And in effect, we're a $100 million corporation. So if you're thinking that our goal is simply to open North High School, I can tell you that I have repeatedly said personally that I am not interested in changing the configuration of the schools at this time, but I think we definitely have to look at all of those options for the future.
I want to add to that, it's, I mean, it's normal to have itemized budgets, operational costs. It's just normal. It's not like it's something extra to ask for. School board should provide that to the community. I think the community should know exactly the operation and how it's running. But at the same time, districts that are 2, 3, 4 schools, they learn from each other. If they see that one budget's more than another, they're asking why. These are questions that have to be asked. If you see that one school spending the same account twice as much, that's a question. You have to ask why that's happening. There's accountability for all that, and that's why I think that the community's been asking us consistently when we go to these, these coffees, like, what are they spending the money on? And we can't answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes. The school districts I've worked in and the ones that I've been involved with or have contact with, in fact, one of my good friends is over at 218 as a superintendent, and I've never seen it where buildings don't have budgets. And like the rest of us, I want to know what's being spent and where. Again, I came out of a district which was nearly $100 million in debt with 3 schools and a district office. And we found some things that, especially at Thornton, where the costs were out of control. So you got to sit down on that. The other thing is you still need 4 different budgets because you still have 4 buildings. I want to know what it's maintaining for the empty building north. And also, I want to know what district office is spending. Because when you're telling teachers, hold on, thank you. I agree, I see the teachers there applauding. When you're telling teachers to cut your budget, when I was in the classroom, I had a budget cut 90%. And said, deal with it. When I was activities director, I had to go from 41 down to 12 activities and have everything be self-sustaining. And yet district office was throwing parties and birthday cakes and consultants and this and that, and it spins your head as a classroom teacher when you got to scrape and pull money out of your pocket and you see money being spent unnecessarily or wasted. Thank you very much. I know it's like speech tournament. I'll get a 6 and go over.
Thank you, Mr. Talley. Well, this next question has to deal with boundaries. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try and call them by name. This next question has to do concerning boundaries, and in an effort to equalize enrollment at different campuses. So the question is, and this is for everyone, and we'll start with Mr. Yantum, are you in favor of keeping junior highs together or restructuring the boundaries by street?
It's a difficult question to answer because I think it really comes down to what the community wants. And I know that the community was surveyed when the decision was made to close North, and the belief was that the community at that time wanted to keep things by feeder district. I think that my perspective is as long as there's no cost disadvantage from doing that, and there's no disadvantage to the kids in terms of what the opportunities that they're able to have in school, that's fine. But I think ultimately we need to look at all of those things in terms of making a decision on boundaries. And
well, if the goal is to equalize enrollment so that you don't have a disproportionate amount of students at one school, would you be in favor of junior feeder schools or streets?
I would want to be convinced that the community believes that's the goal. My understanding is there isn't any way to do that within the current setup. So if that was the goal, I think you would have to do it geographically.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yakos.
Again, this is Mr. Yakos.
Sorry.
So district growth, I think, is the key, is how it plays out with the facility decisions. And also, again, getting the community involved. But at the same time, equal opportunities for students, not only in the classroom but for extracurricular, has to be a priority for the Board of Education. I mean, that has to be asked, again, going out to the community and finding out what they're looking for. I mean, we have to figure out what the exact, again, the size of the schools are different, so I understand how the numbers could be slightly different, but at the same time, we have to see if there's equal opportunities for all the students throughout the district.
Mr. Talley.
Again, I know right now you have the junior high boundaries, but I'm looking for an equalization, more so with the academics. If you have a classroom teacher at one school that has 35, 40 kids in a classroom teaching English 1, say, and over at another school they only have 18, well, you're going to have to equalize that. I'm a big proponent of geographic boundaries. And again, one of the main reasons I say that is because, again, where I grew up over in Blue Island, is kids need to mix with new kids all the time. It's a good experience. You get to meet new people. And oftentimes people don't think about, what about the kid who's not having so much fun in junior high and is maybe bullied or something like that? Give this person an opportunity to start over with new people. So that's where I go. I think it's a good mix. When I came from 218, so we know how that goes.
Thank you. Ms. Town.
I believe that, again, I don't think there should be any immediate changes. I think the students and families have been through a lot. I certainly favor looking at all of the options again. I definitely felt like the former board made their decision very hastily, and so you have to ask, is it fair that some students are getting into activities much more readily than others, depending on which school they ended up in? So I think that has to be explored again in much more detail, and again with much more data, as opposed to doing it very swiftly, which is what I believe was done before.
Thank you. Ms. Pleasant.
While I don't believe that anything should be done immediately, nor should the children be displaced at a whim like I believe they were done in the past, I do think that looking at boundaries by geography is something that we should look into, especially as we move into short and long-term plans for the district.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Janik.
Yes, I mean, without seeing numbers and having the discussion with the admin and obviously bringing the feeder districts in through superintendent roundtable, getting their input from the community, seeing long-term projections, it's a little difficult to answer, but if the premise of your question is, if the goal is to equalize it, I think there's probably only one way to do that, and that would be through geographic boundaries. But again, it necessarily is not what I want. It's what does the community want, and what, as a board, do we work together to accomplish?
Okay, Mr. Kirkman.
I think this topic would be a great topic for community engagement. I think, again, it is the community's asset, the district is. So I think discussing this with the community, having it be planned, well communicated, thought out over a period of time. But I think for now, the feeder schools are working. I think we have to take in consideration, as was stated previously, the student opportunity and the school capacity.
Thank you. Ms. Molinari.
Dee Molinari, thank you. The overwhelming majority of stakeholders back in August 13th of 2015 responded with the preface of saying that they preferred that the junior highs stay intact. So as I serve the constituents of Lincoln Way, I would have to say that I am in favor of keeping the junior highs intact. Some schools are bigger and support the larger enrollment numbers. For instance, East has 30 more classrooms than what Central has, so therefore you're going to have more children at East. Our staff has done an excellent job at making adaptations for all students to be involved in the extracurriculars. Thank you.
Mr. Ripp.
Robert Ripp. I would be in favor of analyzing the decision to possibly moving to geographical boundaries. It would have to be a situation that was studied, that was thoroughly discussed with the community, but I think that it would possibly provide an opportunity to equalize the opportunities among our students. Our mission statement is to provide the opportunities and experience to the students, and if there's some way that we can improve that for all of the students, I would be in favor of supporting it. Thank you.
Ms. Janice Doyle.
Beth Janice Doyle. I don't think that moving kids anytime in the near future is a good idea. I am definitely in favor of sticking with the junior high configurement. However, I do think that there are other ways that we can work on the nurse ratio, proportions and the counselors and things like that. And as long as class sizes are not, like Mr. Talley said, so much different between the buildings, I don't necessarily think that we would need to redraw boundaries. But if the community wanted all of the schools to be proportionate, then obviously that would be something that we would have to take a look at. But again, I think that community involvement is probably one of the bigger issues with this board in the past. And so hopefully, moving forward, using the community and getting their input well before decisions are made would be a priority.
Mr. Kozel.
Chris Kozel, I believe that the equality, and know that the equality between the schools has always been a priority of the Board of Education. And I don't see from the consensus we're gathering right here that it's going to change anytime in the future. The reality is that the campuses are different, the communities are different, and they all have their own spirit and atmosphere. It's important to make sure that we maintain those things as we move forward and have those opportunities for the kids and have them as equal as possible in 3 different campuses with 3 different sets of facilities and 3 different blended communities.
Thank you. Mr. Lucetti.
Chris Lucetti. My view is currently I don't think we should make any immediate changes. I'm against moving any of the students that have been moved in this past year. I do think this is something that would require a lot of community input, and any changes I think would have to be phased in over a long period of time.
Mr. Kostek.
Thank you. Joe Kostek. As was mentioned earlier, I understand that there were 3 petitions submitted last year to the board, and they all had some different aspects to them, but as I recall, the one common theme of them was everybody did want to keep the feeder schools together. As it stands, I personally am okay with the configuration, but again, I realize this is a large community, and this seems to be one where I don't know if it's split down the middle, but there's certainly many people that feel differently about that. So I think it would require community input before that move would be made. And quite honestly, we've got a lot on our plate to deal with right now, and this would be one more thing that maybe could wait a year or 2. I would also like to add, though, if it was the will of the community to go by boundary lines as opposed to feeder districts, that we do it in such a way that we don't move students where we'd say, okay, well, the freshmen starting in this class will go to this school, the freshmen from this area will go to this school, so on, as opposed to actually moving students, but starting them at whatever school that they would do their entire 4-year career at.
Okay, thank you very much. This next question regards revenue building, and it is for Mr. Rip and Ms. Town, specifically.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
This next question concerns revenue building, and it is for Ms. Town and Mr. Rip specifically. People in the district want to maintain and enhance education and activity opportunities, such as updating technology, specifically one-to-one initiatives like laptops for every student, and enhance clubs and sports activities, along with getting caught up on facility maintenance that's overdue. At the same time, the district needs to increase its annual surpluses, eliminate tax anticipation warrants, and build fund reserves. What are your ideas on how to accomplish and balance these competing interests? Mr. Rip.
Robert Rip. First, I'd like to address technology. As many know, a lot of other school districts in the area have student technology that exceeds what we have here at Lincoln Way. To institute a one-to-one student technology platform here at Lincoln Way would be very expensive, I understand that. But maybe there's some ways that we could start introducing it so that the students have at least some exposure to it during their day. For instance, maybe one department where students have their hands on a device for one period during the day. So we need to maybe consider starting some sort of pilot program so that when they do graduate, they're ready for college. The revenue for the district, I'm in favor of possibly starting an advisory committee that would be specifically with the specific instructions of trying to find new improved ways to bring in additional revenue and to reduce costs. I think that there's some opportunities within our current financial structure to possibly reduce costs that do not affect the students or the teachers in some of our auxiliary programs specifically, like transportation and food service.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Town.
Okay. I work at Moraine Valley Community College, and one of the ways that we address things like technology issues is we go out and seek grants. So I think we need to be expanding our investigation of grant opportunities. I also am in favor of looking for sponsorship opportunities. Technology would be a great place for this, where some of the high-tech companies would be willing to donate some of their materials for our students to use them, as long as they were acknowledged for that donation. So I definitely think those are two very good ways that we can increase our revenue. I'm also in favor of getting rid of any unused property that the district still owns.
Thank you.
Can I also add to that technology? Because I'm at a district right now where they actually, every incoming freshman gets a Apple laptop or computer. So one of the things that they worked on was offsetting the cost of textbooks with online versions. So there's a way with that. Plus the grant, working accordingly with the sponsorship, helps to pay for that. So every incoming freshman gets one of the Apple iPads.
Okay, thank you. This next question is also about revenue building, and it's for everyone, and it requires a one-word answer. Would you consider eliminating electives as a viable budget savings measure? And we'll start with Mr. Kostic.
Can I give 2 words?
Excuse me,
Absolutely
you
not.
said it? Mr. Conway, you said eliminating what? We didn't hear.
I'm sorry. Eliminating electives as a viable budget savings measure. Can you hear that? Did you hear that?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
Mr. Conway, I think I'm talking here. I just looked over the acoustics in here. Everybody's having a hard time hearing.
Well, I'll try to be louder.
It's bouncing all over the place.
I do have a teacher
I
voice.
think people should vote for whoever's going to improve the acoustics in here for the next.
Yeah, that's on the list.
I want to know everybody's position on that.
It's way down on the list. Mr. Kostic, do you want me to repeat the question? Oh, you already said absolutely not.
Absolutely not. We
Okay.
don't need a mediocre school.
Mr. Lucetti?
No, I would want to have the cuts away from the students if possible.
Mr. Kozel?
Mr. Kozel, Chris Kozel, no, keep the cuts out of the classroom.
Janice Doyle?
Beth Janice Doyle, absolutely not. I think that electives offer really great opportunities to kids that are outside the realm of the regular academics, like English, math, and the sciences, and I think that they're a really good way to bridge and to build on the STEM and STEAM academics.
That's a no.
No.
Mr. Ripp?
Robert Ripp, absolutely not. The students should not be affected by this.
Ms. Molinari?
Dee Molinari, no, electives are a very important part of the day for the kids and making them well-rounded future individuals going out into the world.
Mr. Kirknick?
Joe Kirking, no, it's part of the greatness and it's part of who we are.
Mr. Janik?
Aaron Janik, no.
Well done, sir. Ms. Pleasant?
Kathy Pleasant, absolutely not.
Karen Town, no.
Lee Talley, I'm a fine arts guy, and I was upset when you guys cut the required fine arts credit. And for those of you who don't know, I've done my own study, right brain, left brain, fine arts and kids do better. So absolutely not. I would like to increase them.
Gus Yakos, no. If anything, we should be expanding also. I'd like to look at the trade and vocational courses for our students.
I have a question concerning that later. Mr. Yantu.
Ben Yomtube, the second name on your four-year ballot on April 4th. No, expand them.
Okay, thank you. This next question is for Mr. Kostic and Mr. Kirknick. What is your vision for the role of faculty in an economically challenging rebuilding climate? Do you feel that teachers need to take a pay freeze?
Can I go first, please? This is from the heart. Education is our industry, okay? And as a business teacher, the education is a service industry. In any service industry, the people are the true product of that industry. They provide the utility. They create the value that makes this district great. So for this district to stay great, it has to have great people. So to answer your question, no to a pay freeze. Okay. The answer is that we have to make sure if we do anything, we heard keep it away from the students. It's the teachers that provide the information, the utility that make the school great.
Mr. Kostic.
You know, it's funny, when I was walking in tonight, I saw and was approached by several of my former teachers that are here this evening. And I took the time before we started to thank them, to say, you know, this has not been an easy task these last 8 months, and if I'm blessed enough to be here another 4 years, it's only going to be harder. And, you know, they're one of the big reasons I'm here. I had an excellent education at this wonderful district of ours, and I learned from wonderful teachers, and you get what you pay for. So I can unequivocally say, absolutely not.
Okay, thank you. This next question is also concerning revenue building, and it is for Ms. Molinari and Mr. Kozel. According to a July 6, 2016 Southtown article, quote, superintendent projected a $6 million Lincoln Way deficit in 2014 despite balanced budget. The superintendent said that he expected a multi-million-dollar deficit that year, which he related privately to the board in a September 22nd memo obtained through a FOIA request. Ms. Molinari and Mr. Kozel, why did you not bring this to the public's attention immediately? Jump in. Mr. Kozel?
The article, the actual memo that you're talking about, I do not recall that one because obviously we don't have it here in front of us. But I can tell you that our finances and our financial problems of this district have been widely spoken about, whether it was at a meeting with the previous administration, and the financial difficulties that this district faced have not been secrets. They've been out in the public for a very, very long time. And we are here, and we will continue to be here to try and work through those and to try and be as open and transparent as possible to you guys.
Thank you. Ms. Molinari?
Whenever I came onto the board, one of the first couple of meetings that I attended was in the spring of 2012. And we were asked to go for TAWS at that time. Prior to that, I wasn't aware of any of the financial difficulties of the district. So the TAWS was a new thing for me. And for those of you who do not understand a TAW, it's a tax anticipation warrant. Whenever you don't have enough money in your coffers, you go for that in order to meet your expenditures. From then on, some of the knowledge was known. This memo that you speak of, I am not fully familiar with. We've went through a agreed-upon procedural audit that revealed many financial mismanagements of this district. We went through and we made a resolution for all those findings and fixed a lot of past practices. In essence, to the article that you're referring to, I didn't read it. Quite frankly, I stay away from the papers, no offense to anyone, but there's a lot of negativity there, and it burdens my heart too much to read about much of that when it regards to Lincoln Way, when I know that this is a great place and we work hard to make it a great place for students and our teachers. Had I known some of what I know now, and there's always shoulda, woulda, couldas, things would have been different.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
may I just,
Yes.
may I just expound upon that?
Sure.
The one thing I can say is, you know, Lincoln Way has been around for a very long time. And when I joined the board, it was a unique situation where every vote was 7-0. I was the first one, I do believe, in about 10 years to vote a dissenting vote. I was also the person who took our previous administration to task about exactly what Dee talked about, is the tax anticipation warrants. During the last 2.5 years, that's come up a number of times. It's great that we actually have a board now that has a different viewpoint on finances, has a different viewpoint on transparency, and brings things out in the open. And it's great, most of all, to see people in the audience at our board meetings. For years and years, we had about 4 people who rotated through our board meetings and no one showed up. It's great to see the community and the teachers and everyone involved in the process because it makes the process better. Thank you.
Thank you. A little over 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we had another candidates forum for the school board and promoted it, and we think we got about almost 10 people. So I am really heartened that we have such a great turnout this evening. It's obviously a testament to the interest in the community about what's going on. Switching gears a little bit, this has to do with program and curriculum issues, and it's a question for everyone. And again, it's one of those short answer questions. So recently, with the appointment of the new education secretary, there has been discussion regarding proficiency versus growth measurements for students. Where do you stand on this issue, proficiency or growth? Mr. Yantu.
Well, I believe both are important. You want students to have a certain level of proficiency at some point, but in terms of measuring the success in the classroom, I think you need to look at growth because not all students start from the same place. And, the goal is to have a certain level of proficiency, and you look at their progress on that through looking at where their growth is.
Gus Yakos. Currently, as an educator, we're going through that process right now. Danielson model has been in place for a number of years right now. So I'm actually at a school district that I think is doing a phenomenal job on how to gauge student growth. And so, but it's new. So I think it's something that it's important. It's great for teachers that actually have a great mentoring program that gets you through that. So again, I think proficiency is important, but again, student growth can be measured, and teachers can be held accountable for that, which I think is important.
Mr. Talley.
Lee Talley. Back in 1999, I was one of the chairpersons of comprehensive school reform, and we took a trip to Washington, one of the many, and it brought up this exact question, and that was actually the first question I asked, and I said, if you have a student with a 5th grade reading level and comes in as a freshman, and he graduates as a senior with a sophomore reading level, which is a growth of a good number of years, are you a success or failure? And the person from the Department of Education goes, you're a failure. And I just looked at him and I said, you're absolutely wrong. You're a success. Don't keep putting this on the teachers.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tom?
I favor growth. I think you have to look at where a student starts and see how they progress, and they certainly are going to do that they're going to go further if they have excellent teaching like we do here at Lincoln Way, but I favor growth.
Ms. Pleasant.
I favor growth.
Okay. Mr. Janik.
In an effort not to butcher this the way our education secretary did during her confirmation hearing, I would probably defer to the teachers. I'm not an educator, Obviously, you do want to see students grow as they progress through the schools, but again, you want to make sure that they're achieving a proficient level as well. So I would defer to the educators in the room, support them in their decisions and how to measure student achievement.
Mr. Kirkning.
Joe Kirking, I would be I'm a fan of growth. As a college educator, I think I get to see it. I get to watch the kids develop, and I think it's a big part of their lives, so I'm a fan of growth.
Ms. Molinari.
Proficient, I think you need to assure that the kids are proficient in the academic area that you're wanting them to succeed in.
Mr. Ripp.
Robert Ripp, growth. No two of our students are the same, so to measure them against the same standard test, I don't think would be fair to the teachers or the students. I think it's more important to show their improvement throughout the system.
Ms. Janice Doyle.
Beth Janice Doyle, growth, absolutely. I can speak from a specific experience for 16 years. One example, I have a class, 3 of my classes this year are team-taught special education classes, which I have 12 of 32 kids with IEPs. In any given class, especially of that makeup, I could have a student who probably should be in an AP class all the way down to students who have like a 4th grade reading level. So growth is very, very important. We cannot treat all of these kids and put the same bar of measure across all of them. That's been a problem in education for quite a while. And I think that looking at their growth across years, looking at their growth anecdotally, even if it's not data, which we've really been sort of forced into doing over the last few years, I think that is much more important than proficiency.
Mr. Kozel.
Chris Kozel, I'm going to personally say growth, but I will tell you that I think the federal government should stay as far out of our schools as possible. I think local control and local discussions like we're having right here are the most important thing that we can do, and I think we should leave it up to the educators because it truly is their business to educate our children with us. Thank you.
Mr. Lucetti.
Chris Lucetti, I think both are important, but I would say growth. I don't think students are individuals and you want to see progress and the improvement, so I would go with growth.
Mr. Kostic.
Joe Kostic. I will also say growth. I think it's not only unfair to the students, but grossly unfair to the teachers just to have a level of proficiency because, like I say, no 2 students are alike. If you have a student that comes into high school reading at like I said, a 4th or 5th grade level and graduates reading at a sophomore year level, I think that teacher has done a remarkable job. Would they be considered proficient by a government standard of proficiency? Probably not, but that student sure had an excellent teacher that helped them grow.
Okay, thank you. I did have a large category of miscellaneous questions, and so I'm going to take some from there now. And this next one is for Mr. Talley, Mr. Yantum, and Mr. Kostic. As a board member, how do you view your role concerning personnel matters? As a board member, how do you view your role concerning personnel matters? Mr. Yantum.
My view is that there's only one person in the school district that the board hires, and that's the superintendent. And so that's the only person that the board needs to be focused on deciding who they want to have in the position. I think when it comes to other personnel areas, that the board is free to evaluate the superintendent relative to the decisions they make and the quality of the decisions they make, but they shouldn't be interfering in those decisions.
Mr. Talley.
Lee Talley. Again, like Mr. Yamtube said, is we hire the superintendent and we put him in charge. However, he works for us, we work for the community. And he is supposed to, and we are supposed to be a check on him in terms of making sure that we're hiring the correct personnel, that they're certified, that there are background checks done. Nothing is worse than watching something, and as a career educator, as myself, Mr. Yakos here, and Ms. Doyle, when you see something go wrong in the press, teacher up here, teacher up there, administrator, Barbara Bird Bennett, stealing all that money. that paints everybody like that. So we're there as a check on the superintendent to make sure that things are run correctly, and in terms of personnel, to make sure everybody is acting professionally and doing a good job.
Mr. Costick.
I agree. The board has one employee, and that is the superintendent. That being said, the superintendent brings us recommendations as to personnel that they want to hire. I am going to defer to the educators as to, what kind of a teacher should be hired in what department. That comes from the recommendation of the professionals, and we oversee that, but ultimately, it's the superintendent's is our one employee.
Okay, thank you. This next question is for Mr. Lucetti, Mr. Janik, and Mr. Kozel. In the next 3 years, District 210 will lose 30 to 40 teachers due to retirement, with a combined 1,000 years of experience. Yeah, we're old. I heard it, all right? How old are these people? I got it. Unless, of course, I did the math wrong, which is also possible. As a board member, how will you attract and retain high-quality teachers to this district to replace those that are retiring? And that's for Mr. Janik, Mr. Lucetti, and Mr. Kozel. Mr. Janik, do you want to start?
Sure. Obviously, compensation and benefits are going to be a way to attract high-quality educators. Lincoln Way is known for the academics that it provides, and that's in part, or large part, due to the staff and the teachers that provide the education to the students. So, in a sense, you're going to need to attract those high-quality teachers through a competitive compensation package. You're going to want to review what other surrounding districts are doing in terms of attracting the talent. You're going to be competing against other school districts in the area. And if you're offering something that's lower than those districts, then you're probably not going to be able to attract people to replace the veteran teachers that are going to be retiring in a few years. So I would say through a competitive compensation package that's reviewed with the administration and then obviously approved by the board.
Mr. Lucetti.
I think with Lincoln Way's reputation for the students and the teachers, I think that is always a big draw. I don't think we have any issues really with attracting talent. I will say it will be a little bit harder to attract younger teachers because of the financial situation here. So obviously I think, showing some progress in fixing some of our financial issues over the next 3 years will help that. But I think just the culture of Lincoln Way and making sure that the academic standards are maintained will draw the teachers to the district.
Mr. Kozel.
I will agree that the competitive pay is an important portion of it, but I think it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that to, just like the audience members sitting here, they're not sitting on gum. They're not sitting there with seats with holes in them. We were ranked the #1 safest school in Illinois this year. Those kind of things don't just happen. And those are the kinds of things I think that I would know that if I was an educator and I was coming to a new school, I want to make sure I felt safe. I want to have the best facilities. And things that we do at no cost, and now covering any costs that we might incur, like our child care that we've done recently. And just signed that new contract to cement those things in, to take care of our teachers, and to try and attract the best teachers going forward.
Okay, thank you. This next question is for Mr. Ripp. Mr. Ripp, as a former member of the Lawatu Group, which sued the school district, you endorsed a deficit reduction plan. Do you still endorse that plan in its entirety?
The deficit reduction plan that was created back then was a starting point for discussions. It was also developed for a 4-school system, and a lot of those items would not apply in our current configuration with the three-school system.
Okay, thank you. This next one is for Ms. Town and Ms. Pleasant. As a board member, how do you view your role concerning administration with a concentration on the superintendent? Either one.
Okay, well, the board governance would say that the board is the overseer of the superintendent. That is the one employee that directly reports to the board. So they are responsible for his or her evaluations. They are responsible for ensuring that he is doing the job he or she was hired to do. So I think that that is really the main part of the board, is to make sure that that person at the top of this very large district is on top of their game in terms of the educational aspects of the district as well as the financial aspects of the district. So I think that's the board's responsibility through and through.
Kathy Pleasant, I view my role, or I would view my role, as one of, like Karen said, overseeing the superintendent and what he or she does. I don't view my role as micromanaging the superintendent. I view it as more of a review process. He or she brings forth information to the board that we use to make decisions on. So we need to place confidence in that person and feel that they are doing the best job that they absolutely can. And I believe that the board is responsible for making sure that the correct person is in place and that the overseeing powers are at the board where they should be.
Okay, thank you. This next question is for Mr. Yakos, Mr. Talley, and Mr. Lucetti. What is your position on the transgender bathroom issue?
Actually, again, Gus Yakos. Actually, we had, in one of the school districts I was at, we did have a transgender. There was 2 individuals. And so what they were given the option is because they didn't have a separate washroom at the time. So what happened was they just basically had a meeting with the individual's teachers, and they said that they were able to use a faculty, which was a faculty-locked personal or private washroom whenever they wanted to. Same thing happened with them, in physical education. So again, it's one of those things where we're open with, the district came to us and said, this is kind of the situation. The teachers understood, and again, worked to get, help those 2 individuals out.
Okay, Mr. Talley.
Lee Talley. Again, what you have to deal with here is Title IX, because you have to have equal access for things for students. But that's an individual case basis that I think if it does come up, I think it can be worked out. And I think in this day and age, 2017, if this is a problem, there's a solution to it. So, and the teachers and the students, and that's where I look at the young people, the students, they're far ahead of us old people. They're more accepting and they're progressive, so.
Yeah, I would say that, we have to be open to finding a solution and to work with the student or students to come up with the best solution. And I do think that, to Mr. Talley's point, the students are probably ahead of the board members in this case, and I would just make sure that we did the best to follow all the applicable laws.
Thank you. One more question, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. And this is for Mr. Yakos, Mr. Kostick, and Ms. Town. We take great pride in our standardized test scores and students' college readiness. What can be done for those students that are not college-bound? Mr. Yakos.
I touched on that before. I think there should be an expansion on the vocationals and the trades. One of the things that we did at one of our districts that was very successful is an exit survey. So for kids that graduated, we would basically find out whether they were in school, whether they were just working. But we would try to get exit surveys from everyone to kind of see what they maybe lacked, that they felt that they lacked out in the, in the career. Also, I also teach a dual credit course, and I think that's very important. It gives you kind of a head start in credits for, what dual credit means that you're receiving college credit while you're taking courses at the high school level. A, saves money. B, at the same time, they kind of get that college experience, kind of gives students that might think that they might not be able to go to college a little bit of a head start.
Ms. Town.
As I mentioned earlier, I work at Moraine Valley Community College, so I'm a huge fan of people who are not necessarily pursuing a bachelor's degree. Many of our students have successful careers after getting a certificate or a 2-year associate degree. So I would like to definitely make sure that we are offering that as an option for students and not making every student feel that a bachelor's degree is the only pathway for them. I'm also a huge supporter of dual credit, like Mr. Yakos mentioned. Now, what some of you may not even know what dual credit is, and basically it's a course that you take while you're in high school, but you're actually earning college credit for it. So that not only allows you to have a much more rigorous curriculum, you're actually saving a lot of money because you're earning college credit while in high school. So sometimes those courses are completely free, sometimes there's a small fee for it. Now, there were some recent changes to the law that affected dual credit, and some of our, we lost a lot of our dual credit courses because of those changes. And I know I've talked to a couple of faculty members who were affected by that here at Lincoln Way. So I would really like to pursue talking with JJC further, because JJC is the community college that would be affiliated with our dual credit system, and find out if there's some ways that we can address this. I went through and looked at the different schools that do dual credit with JJC, and for example, Lockport East has many more vocational programs that qualify for dual credit than we do, and I would really like to find out why and what we could do about that. So that would be actually a real priority for me, because I think that's a great option for a lot of our students.
Thank you. Mr. Kostek.
Joe Kostek. As I understand it, and I don't think this statistic has changed, and if anybody can correct me, please do, I think it's approximately 20% of our student body are not college-bound. It's interesting, Mr. Janik and I had this conversation the other day. I'm actually come from a family of union tradesmen myself. They saw me put the tools on in high school and work during the summers, and they insisted that I stay in college, and they said I better study hard. That being said, there seems to be a shortage of skilled labor, and speaking with Mr. Janik, there's going to be quite a lack of skilled tradesmen in the years coming forward. So absolutely, I think vocational training plays a huge part should play a huge part of our academic curriculum here. This is 20% of our students. And some students just aren't going to be college bound. And they will take that path, and they can make a wonderful living doing it. And you know what? There's probably a need for a lot more carpenters, electricians, skilled tradesmen than there are lawyers right now. So absolutely, that needs to be a big part of our curriculum. And hey, I took shop in high school, and I still use some of those skills. Not very well, but I'm glad I did.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, if I could jump in real quick, since I was brought into this conversation.
Oh, sure, absolutely, Mr. Janik.
Yeah, thank you. So
another lawyer.
Yeah, right. So my current role in my professional life is I'm the executive director of a multi-employer bargaining association in the construction and trade programs. So I represent 9 trade associations in collective bargaining with the various unions in the Chicagoland area. So what I would like to do is leverage my relationship with the various unions, the companies that I represent, in creating some public-private partnerships to get our students exposed to some of these skilled trades. ADP just came out with a statistic this morning that construction companies just added 66,000 skilled trade jobs. There's still thousands and thousands of job openings in the skilled trades. I know a company in Chicago, they need 50 carpenters, they can't find them. These unions have funds, joint labor management funds, that have training programs. They can't get people to join them or apply to them. Maybe we could reach out to them. Would they be able to provide us a fee to come in and, it's a new revenue source possibly, to get in front of our students, to expose them to the trades. Once these students are exposed, maybe, hey, I want to be a carpenter. Maybe they could be a plumber, an electrician. All the trades that are lacking right now in terms of workforce here in the Chicagoland area. There's a project that's going to be built in Joliet in the next few years. 8,000 construction workers are going to be employed. There's not going to be enough people to fill those roles. And like Joe said, 20% of our students don't go away to college. What are they going to do? They're not going to work at McDonald's their career. The trade program is going to give these students a career.
Okay,
They're
thank you.
not going to go to college.
I have
and
to
then-
move on because I do have one
I could
more.
talk about this all night. So
I know you
I'm
could.
sorry.
Can I add
That's
one?
what I do for a living.
I appreciate that.
Could I add one thing to that really quickly? I didn't.
Pardon?
Can I say something about that really quickly?
Quickly.
I was the site coordinator for a grant program that's called High Schools at Work. And the goal of High Schools at Work, we did this for 4 years at my school because a much larger portion of my students at my school do not attend college. And this grant program really brought career pathways back into the schools and a lot of CTE focus. And we organized with Christ Hospital and a lot of businesses and trades and unions and stuff, and had them come in to the school, and we did a lot of job shadowing. So I
Okay.
absolutely think that that's
Thank you.
valuable. Sorry.
Mr. Talley, quickly.
15 seconds. Back in the day, they used to have the Sauk Area Technical Center over in Robbins, and they sold it to the Armory, but it was a cooperation between 3 school districts, 218, 228, and 227, I believe. And that might be a use for one of the buildings that's empty, is creating a Voc Center.
Okay, thank you. I do have one more question for the panel, and then I'm opening it up to the public. And this is for everyone, and a very quick yes or no answer, please. If elected to the board, would you be receptive to opening the door to begin serious discussions and investigate the opportunity of using the facility of the North Campus for Midwest traveling sports teams to hold events in soccer, football, baseball, rugby, swimming, and a litany of others? There are over 85 Olympic traditional sporting events with traveling teams that compete against each other. So repurposing the North Campus, if the bond structure would allow it, and I know that that's, I'm not a bond expert, trust me, but would you be open to at least listening and hearing a discussion related to that? Start with Mr. Yantum, yes or no?
Ben Yamtube, yes.
Gus Yakos, yes.
Lee Talley, yes, as long as they have their certificates of insurance against liability.
Karen Town, yes.
Kathy Pleasant, yes.
Aaron Janik, yes.
Joe Kirking, yes.
Dee Molinari, yes, as long as they are in line with the bond covenants and we do earn an income from opening those doors.
Mr. Rip?
Robert Rip, yes, but the bond covenants don't allow it.
Beth Janice Doyle, yes.
Chris Kozel, yes.
Chris Lucetti, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I know that you'd have to overcome somehow the bond issue. So, all right, at this time, I'm going to ask those that wish to ask a question, and we're going to have 2 areas, one in this aisle and one in that aisle. And my 2 very able-bodied assistants, Vice President of the LWEA, Brian Nowak, and Secretary Denise Budney, will be there, and you may ask your question. Please limit it to 1 minute, please. And please direct your question to a specific candidate. And we'll start with Denise.
Oh, that's okay. Hi, my name is Todd Velke. Quick question, just a simple yes or no from everyone, please. Knowing what you know now, would you close North?
I'll respond.
We'll start
yes.
with Mr. Kostick.
Okay, well, I mean, so with the finances as they are, and I just, okay. Yes.
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 I wasn't there then, but yes.
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 I would close a school.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I would close a school.
I would not have closed the school at the time because I don't think enough research was done.
Lee Taylor, no, but I wouldn't have closed, yeah, like Ms. Pleasant said, I wouldn't have closed that school.
Same thing, I think there wasn't enough evidence and enough data to close any school.
No, not based on what I know right now.
Thank you. Brian?
Good evening. My name is Kathy Sanchez. I'm from Mokina. I am the parent of two proud Lincoln Way graduates, one from Central, one from East. I am the grandparent of a child that was moved from from North to East, and she is doing just fine. But I do have an important question. I want to direct this question to Mr. Ripp. Will you, as a board member, be considering adding to the staffing at the schools in order to equalize staff to student ratio for positions such as nurses, therapists, and guidance counselors?
Yes, I think that that has to be looked at. I think another way to equalize those opportunities would be to look at the geographical boundaries as opposed to the feeder schools, so that all of the students in our district have the same opportunities.
Thank you. Denise?
Mr. Lichetti, based on the letter that you wrote to Dr. Arvid Johnson a week before they closed North, you stated that you would be interested in either closing North or Lincoln Way West. Based on the finances you see today and the state financing continues to suffer, will you continue and close Lincoln Way West as well?
So you're referring to a letter that I wrote in 2015 before any decision was made, and I do not think at this time, given the current situation, that we would have to close another school. I think we are running 3 schools, and we are planning to have a surplus this year, and I think that we can continue to run 3 schools.
Thank you. Brian?
I've been a Lincoln Way resident since I was in 5th grade. I just have a simple question after hearing everybody speak, and I will ask Ms. Molinar because I'm hoping she can answer. None of the candidates up here want to take anything away from the teachers. None of the candidates up here want to take anything away from the extracurricular activities. Giving that, what percentage of the budget that you have to work with today can you work with? If you have $1 and you're squeezing your budget, trying to squeeze your budget savings out of only 20% of that, how is that going to be accomplished to keep the surpluses going forward? And then has anybody thought about our governor's plan to freeze property taxes as we know them today, and how will that affect us going forward?
Thank you. The property tax freeze will amount to the district a financial impact. And I think if that happens, as a community, we're going to have to come together and make some choices as to how we can find more money. If we're looking at a 2-year property tax freeze, over the course of those 2 years, the district is going to lose close to $2 million. Going forward, looking at that, it could add up to an amount of $10 million by the time we get to the fiscal year 2022. The district, as Mr. Conway mentioned, is going to experience a large turnover of teachers, of retired teachers. Many teachers will be retiring. That will have an impact on our budget financially in terms of educational expense that comes, teachers' salaries comes out of the education part of the fund balances. That will free up some dollars, but it's hard to say what the state is going to do, if the governor is going to implement the tax freeze, if the legislature is going to allow for that to happen. We also have to think about, there's a lot of discussions occurring regarding pension shifts, and is that going to come back to the burden of the taxpayers? We can't keep asking the taxpayers to carry the burden in this state, but it seems to be what many want to do. I think we have to look for some additional revenues within the school district, and there's been talk of sponsorships. If that could impact the budget, it's not going to impact the budget a tremendous amount. We're going to have a few windfall incomes with selling of land in the next couple of months. Somebody mentioned on the panel that they would look to sell all the land that the district holds. The 3 parcels that we currently hold have been sold and will be experience that windfall income, so that will help temporarily with the budget. But going forward, we have to keep our expenditures flat going forward, and that'll be a challenge, but I think we can all commit to that and move forward for the district.
Okay, thank you. Denise?
Hi, my name is Jackie. I'm a 1990 Knight, and my son is a 2012 North Phoenix. I've been a member of the community since 1970, and my question is to Mr. Kostek, because I know that he is a supporter of the arts. I'm a board member of the Lincoln Way Area Chorale, consisting of 120 community members, many of whom are Lincoln Way alumni, and whose children are not attending our schools anymore, but still continue to pay the taxes that come with this community. When we were asked to fund the new buildings, we were promised that the schools would be open and available for community organizations like LWAC. This has become increasingly difficult since the unfortunate closing of North. As a supporter of the arts, I ask you, is it possible to utilize North Performing Arts Center and acoustic rooms for community programs that are for the arts? I know the Park District utilizes that building for sporting events. Why not the arts?
Who's that for? Mr. Costa?
Well, thanks for the question. As I understand it, and I wish I had Mr. Wilkie here, the building itself, it's not, you can't turn on the heat and the air conditioning for one wing of it, or a couple of classrooms. As I understand, and that's been part of the issue where we've had interest from public education venues that wanted to rent part of the building, but the reason that was not possible, or one of the reasons it wasn't possible, is because the operating costs based on the design of the building are such that it's all or nothing. They can't just turn the heat and the air conditioning on in the choir room for that use. So it becomes cost impossible just to be able to, if it were to open the choir room for LWAC or some other organization to use.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike Chabowski, 18-year New Lenox resident. I have a question for Mr. Castle. Earlier this evening, you stated that you were a vote of dissension on the board. You were probably the first one in like 10 years that voted negatively against the current superintendent. My question to you is, when we found out about all the illegal expenses reported in the paper, you're a steward of my tax dollars. The Vermont teddy bears, the annuity sweetheart deal for Lawrence Wiley, the dog school. Why did you not stand up, since you're a voice of dissension, and clearly ask for a forensic audit to find out where my money went and everybody in this room's money went? You stated you're a voice of dissension. Where did my money go, and why did you not call for forensic audit?
I will tell you honestly and openly, I was standing up and speaking my voice, but I am one voice as a board member of 7. That does not carry the weight to be able to pull forward something like a forensic audit or those things. Specifically, no. But did I stand up? Was it reported in the paper? Was there outrage in the community about the tax anticipation warrants? Was I out in the community trying to raise and get people to run with me to try and turn the board so that we could get away from tax anticipation warrants? And yes, I was doing that. But you have to do it when you're a board member. It's not like being a member of a village or you're a one voice of seven, and that chorus of seven voices becomes what's done. And did I stand up? Was I reported in the papers? If you look back, I was. And I will continue to be that voice of dissension when something is wrong. And the previous administration did not like me, and I wear that as a badge of honor.
Okay, thank you. Denise?
Oh, first of all, I'd like to thank all the candidates for running and wanting to represent our school district. And I will say that my daughter has received an excellent education in the school district. With that being said, Mr. Talley and Mr. Yikos, I butchered your name, I'm sorry. I am a teacher. I've taken furlough days. My school year is going to be cut short. I'm not going to get paid, but I'm a taxpayer out here. And I want to know if you really think that it's feasible and fair to say, and believe me, I have numerous master's degrees, that we can't freeze teacher salaries or put a moratorium on masters and doctorates and continue to pay those salary increases while asking the residents here to continue paying taxes. Don't get me wrong, as a teacher, you're in it for the kids and you deserve to be compensated, but as a taxpayer, my pay's not going up. In fact, I go down in pay every year and I have a contract that says I go up. It is what it is. But as a taxpayer, I don't think it's right that we continue to pay for advanced degrees
Please
and
ask
everything
your
else.
question.
So is it feasible to say that we're going to have a tax freeze on real estate taxes and yet continue to operate giving raises to everyone in the district? Thank you.
One of the things that, our slate talks about, and I 100% agree with this because I've seen it happen. I've been a part of union negotiations. So let's understand that the teachers are not the one that put this district in the financial problems that they're in. So they shouldn't be the ones, but again, the community at the same time did not put the district in this situation. So understanding that, there's a number of cuts and ways to reduce expenses, all right? There's a ton of ways that does not affect academics and it does not affect the whole overall educational experience, extracurricular and everything involved. But the one thing that I try to tell people, and we've said this before, especially when people come to our meet and greets, is that, okay, it starts from the top. Once we set the vision, okay, and once we start to do certain individual things, which we're creating audits and seeing where all the expenses are, then it's a talking point, right? So if we open discussions with contract negotiations, we can talk to the teachers. That's how it starts. Again, it's a whole process. Our whole platform is based on, extending ourselves out to the community and getting a response and getting the community involved. And that's pretty much all we're asking.
An affectation there. I think a salary freeze has to be considered. Even the district's own financial planner brought that up at a board meeting, I think three board meetings ago. When I was in 2005, my salary was frozen for 3 years, and then I gave myself an $8,000 pay cut because I cut some of the extra things I was doing. But here's the thing here, and it's terrible because when you have to reduce expenditures, it affects the staff, it affects the students, it affects the community. And they did nothing wrong here. This district has been mismanaged for quite a long time. And if I was to put a number on it, and I'm just going off the top of my head, and some people go, oh my God, I would say waste, fraud, corruption, insider deals, 100 mil, which is a year's budget. That's a lot of money. My pension has been frozen since 2011. Does anybody know what the monthly increase in Social Security was for this year? $3.50. And now you want to go to a senior citizen whose taxes are going crazy, and you want them to, shell out more money? Prescription drugs, 27% increase this year. Medical bills, 18% increase this year.
Time. Sorry, Mr. Talley. Well, we got to move forward. Denise? Or no, sorry, Brian.
Hi, my name is Rachel Schulke. I am a junior at Lincoln Way East. This is a question for Ms. Pleasant, Mr. Janik, and Ms. Janice Doyle. I've been a Lincoln Way East student for 3 years, and this year my school setting was changed very dramatically, both negatively and positively. And I lost a lot of my close friends to Central due to the closing of North. And so tonight I'm speaking for them as well. How are you as potential school board members going to act on the unbalance of our school's extracurricular and curricular setting concerning the assimilation of North into East, East into Central, and Central into West?
One of the reasons why I talk about wanting to see budgeting by school is for that reason. I would like to see where all the extracurriculars fall into place in all the 3 schools. And by that, I don't want to see that so I can cut extracurriculars. I want to see that so we can make sure that all the extracurricular activities that the children want to participate in are available. I don't believe that you should ever have an extracurricular that is closed or has too many students part of it. I think that by being able to see how each school and activity functions, we may be able to combine. I don't know. I don't know what that answer is because I don't have that information. So that's one of the things that I want to look at because I want to make sure that the opportunities for each kid are the same. My kids included, my kids got cut out of multiple sports this year after playing for many. I accept that. I understand that. But is there a way that we can make that different? Can we combine? Can we do things with other schools? I don't know that answer, and that's one of the things I want to do when I get on.
I would tend to agree with that to some extent. I think we would have to have a conversation with the students, the student body, the administration, find out where are we having efficiencies in running extracurriculars and curriculars, and where are there inefficiencies. In any organization as large as this, there are going to be inefficiencies, and if we can flush those out and maybe provide a level playing field at all the schools while not impacting moving students back and forth, then I would certainly be for that. But it's going to be a conversation. It's not just one idea from one person. We're a board. There's several. I'd like to be on the board, obviously. I'm not on the board yet, but we're going to have that conversation to figure out how we're going to do that.
Thank you.
I would like to see more student involvement in a lot of these decisions. I think that in our district, we started to bring students into the conversations as far as hiring and activities and academics. And I think that the students that were moved specifically need to be heard. I think that your concerns are just as valid, if not more valid, than the taxpayer and the parents, because it is your life that you live every single day. So, you know, while you did move, and I understand that there are a lot of positives and negatives with moving from one school to another, and that obviously the opportunities are different. I think that each school, the sports and the interest in certain sports is different as well. So if you were one of those students who was negatively affected, I think that it's time for the students to kind of speak up. I think they should start coming to focus groups and, you know, emailing board members and calling them. And I would always be willing to meet and talk with students one-on-one, absolutely. So I definitely think it's a concern.
Can I just add just one quick thing? I was a part of expanding intramural programs for students that weren't able to make the team, so that was one of the things that I can bring also, you know, if I become a board member, is expanding those programs.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Nick Forlenza, and I'm currently a sophomore at Lincoln Way East High School. Contrary to what you may all think, and along with many others, we would move back to our old high school in a heartbeat, and there are many others like me. So how can you rationalize keeping 2 older schools open, such as Central, when it has a temporary boiler out in the north wing that's costing you over $1 million?
Is that directed toward anyone? Anyone
who said yes.
Yeah.
Board member right now?
All right, we don't have that kind of time, so pick somebody out. All right, Ms. Molinari.
What was the question directly?
He would like to have the question to Mr. Kozel as to the current students. Would any current student right now at East, they would at any moment given the chance, go back to North? And if that being the case, how do you justify keeping older schools open that cost more to run as Central? He mentioned the boiler.
Sure.
So I'm just rephrasing it. It's not my question.
No problem. Thank you. It was a very, very tough decision, and I know a lot of us on the board at the time really struggled with that. And we had to make hard decisions so that we could maintain the great education that Lincoln Way gives to all of our students. As we move forward, we may have to look at other hard decisions. Hopefully, they won't be as hard as North. And I do feel for you. As a student, I was a Lincoln Way student myself. I have a son who went to Central, and I have daughters who will go to West. There are different schools and different things, and every kid in this district was affected by what happened. The reality is the finances, the projected enrollment of the students that were enrolled in the grade schools at the time dictated that that was the best decision. Only history will tell what that best decision was. But the reality was, with the information, and we had a ton of information and a ton of input from the community, we did the best with what we had, and we made some tough decisions. I'm sorry that it hurt some people, but we have to make those tough decisions,
Okay.
and it is our responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Kozel. We have time for one more question, and then I'm going to have to go to closing statements.
Hi, Mike Fitzgerald, and my question is directed to the person or persons who have the most understanding of this issue. Given that bond payments are scheduled to go from about 15 million per year to almost 41 million per year in the next 16, 17 years, is the board out of options as to what they can do with that debt as far as refinancing it or pushing it down the road? And how does that, has anybody figured out what the cost, the increase in taxes is going to be to the average homeowner and business owner in the district, since everybody is going to be hit by that and bondholders get paid no matter what?
Who's that question for, sir?
It's for anybody on the current board or who's running who has the most knowledge about the issue, because I think that is a huge issue that nobody talks about in this district.
I can go ahead and start that conversation, and please, anybody else feel free to jump in. The reality is the way that our bonds are structured are no different than every other governmental entity out there. Every single governmental entity structures their bonds with an increasing payment over time due to growth, unless you're in an unfortunate situation where you're in an area that sees no growth. Are we going to see growth over the next 16 years, as you mentioned? Absolutely. Will that growth meet the growth of the bonds that are happening at the same time? We will have to see. I can tell you as a board member, there are options in these bonds to call them, to refinance them, to do different things with them, and that is something that will be discussed in open session with all of the community, not only with the Finance and Building Advisory Committee that was just recently started, that Ms. Pleasant and Mr. Lucetti are on with me. These things are talked about quite frequently. And yes, is it a concern? It is a concern of multiple of the present board members, and I'm sure the candidates and the citizens of this community. And it has to be addressed.
I just want to add to that. So currently we're at junk bond status, correct? So one of the ways that we have to kind of dig our way out of this, we have to improve the operating side of the entire district. And we have to stop using tax anticipated warrants to pay our bills, number one.
And
All right,
I will add to that, just
All right.
briefly.
Quickly, please.
And talking to financial advisors, it is known that we have to get out of the junk bond rating that we are at. We can look at that avenue once we have a good AFR, which will occur this year. It'll be a good AFR to look at so that we increase our opportunities to refinance at a decent rate. And those bonds that are callable will certainly be refinanced at a better rate moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. We have to move to closing statements. For those of you who have not asked questions, the candidates, I'm sure, will be around after the forum, but we have to wrap up this part by 9 o'clock. We're going to go to closing statements. We're going to start with Mr. Kostek. Please be succinct. And also, by the way, the candidates have tables out in the foyer with campaign literature. So please feel free to avail yourselves of that as well. Mr. Kostek.
Sure. Real quick to the gentleman that was just speaking, I conferred with Mr. Lucetti because I wanted to verify a number, but just in terms of raw numbers, for the bond portion of your tax bill, with a $300,000 home, if it's around $450 this year, in 2033, that comes out to about $1,100. So that's where it is now, and that's where it tops out. First of all, thank you so much for having us this evening, LWEA. It's been my pleasure to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an excellent school district. We have to maintain the excellence of our school district. We are in trying financial times. We all agree that we need to run budget surpluses to get away from these tax anticipation warrants. The budget is going to be something that is constantly monitored. We have other factors and variables that we have no control of that we spoke of this evening. We have potential property tax freeze on the horizon. We have pension shifts. These are all things that the state of Illinois have not decided on. It makes it more and more difficult to do our job. But thank you for being a part of the conversation. I believe as a community, we will solve these problems. And the only thing that scares me worse than an increase in my tax bill is a decrease in my property value. So please, do whatever it takes to keep these schools excellent. The growth will continue, and we will get through this. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lucetti.
Thank you to Mr. Conway and the LWEA for putting this form together. Thank you also to all the community members for coming out to learn more about the candidates. It's great to see such a tremendous turnout for this important event. About a year ago, I applied to be on the board as I felt that I could add value with my financial experience. Most of the challenges the district faces are a result of the financial situation the district finds itself in after years of running operating deficits. A significant number of issues with the district's past financial management has rightfully led to a breakdown in the trust between the community and the board. Sound financial decisions and the development of a long-term financial plan are the only way out of our current situation. I have been very active and vocal in implementing change in the financial reporting and financial management practices of the district since I've been appointed to the board. I believe we have made progress and have established a financial foundation to build upon. I hope that I will get to continue that, and I look forward to having everyone vote on April 4th, and I would be honored if you would select me as your candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kozel.
The passion for Lincoln Way that I mentioned in my introduction is infectious and palpable, no matter where you live in the district or what school you attend. Unfortunately, the message in which that passion has been expressed by some is not always beneficial to our kids and our district. There have been lawsuits filed, inflammatory articles written, and grandstanding during public meetings, and for some, an us versus them theme. Taking a step back, one can look at most things in life as a glass half full or a glass half empty. I always strive in everything to look at the glass half full, just as I prefer to build my own children up versus tearing them down. This allows me to ensure that my words and actions move things forward in a positive manner. Personally, I do not believe that deficiencies should be sugar-coated. It just means that every negative issue needs to be brought forward accurately and in full, transparently with a solution or a process to arrive at a solution. This April, you will have a choice to tear down what Lincoln Way stands for and drag its name further through the mud, as some of the other candidates have, or join me in lifting up Lincoln Way to new heights. I respectfully ask for your vote to build Lincoln Way up in a constant state of improvement through hard work, transparency, and with the community as a whole. Thank you again to the LWEA, and remember Chris Kozel, last in the ballot, first for Lincoln Way.
Thank you. Ms. Janice Doyle?
Thank you. While the district and board are figuring out how to handle the financial crisis, which clearly is our #1 priority, the worst thing that could happen is for our academics, activities, and athletics to take a back seat. I view my role as being someone who will help maintain the academic standards and our reputation for excellence in District 210. It is my hope that you see value in having a high school teacher on a high school board. And just like having a board comprised of 7 teachers would not be a good thing, a board comprised of 7 business people or finance people would also not be a good thing. So I also am encouraging all of you to please reach out to me. Any group that has asked me to come speak with them, I've been there. Any person that has contacted me through my website, I have replied to them, or I have called them, or I have met them for coffee. I am more than willing to meet up with any of you, speak to any of you, reply to any of your questions. If you would like to get in touch with me, I do have a website and there's cards out there. It's just www.bethjanicedoyle.com. So please feel free to talk to me or ask me any questions. I would always be more than willing to answer your questions and meet with you. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ripp.
Sure. Robert Ripp. The district's #1 issue right now is a financial issue. The educational excellence of Lincoln Way hasn't changed, and I don't believe it will change in the future as long as we continue to support it as a community like we have. That being said, there are some items inside of the finances of the district that I believe that I could help with. My financial background as a CPA for 25 years, my involvement with the district over the last few years, I'm dedicated to fixing the problems of the district. I believe the problems can be fixed. I've got specific ideas and solutions for some of the problems, and I hope that you keep me in mind on April 4th for the 2-year seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Molinari.
Thank you, Mr. Conway and the LWA for hosting this event tonight, and thank you for all attending tonight. I, like many of you, moved into the district for Lincoln Way. I'm an educator, and I have a business background. I believe in the good people of Lincoln Way. I appreciate the high regard that everyone places on education. I've been humbled to serve you all, and have been very proud to be a part of Lincoln Way. And I appreciate your vote on April 4th. You can look for more information on my website, molinari2017.com. You can email me for information, ask me questions. I'm number 5 on the ballot, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kirknick.
Again, I would like to thank the LWEA for hosting this event, and I would also like to thank all the candidates for joining us on the stage this time for this forum. I have an extensive experience in governance, financial matters, complex budgets, problem solving, strategic planning, and goal execution. But what I really enjoy is the communication process. I enjoy establishing a dialogue, creating awareness, and making sure that everyone has a true understanding of the complex problems we face as a district. This district is an asset of the community, both its tangible assets and its intangible assets. And it's important during these very complex times that we get the information, that we have the discussion, we create a dialogue, and we pick the best candidates to lead us through this troubled times. It's not over. The first part of the problem was self-created. The second part of the problem will come from the state and other factors that we have no control over. So it's going to take people dedicated and passionate and committed to the district as a whole to get us through this. I thank everyone for your attendance tonight. I love hearing the words when I go to people and I talk to people about Chicagoland. They say, "Where do you live?" I say, "I live in New Lenox." They go, "Oh, Lincoln Way, that's a great district." Great takes a lot to accomplish, and it's going to take even more to preserve. Thank you for your time, and I look forward and humbly ask for your votes on April 4th.
Thank you. Mr. Janik.
Again, I'd also like to thank LWEA and everyone here in attendance tonight. I'd also like to thank Joe for not stealing my closing like he did at the Lawatu Forum. I'd like to highlight 3 points on why I'm running for office. One, I want to preserve the academic excellence that Lincoln Way has become known for. Recently, Lincoln Way was ranked in the top 5% of schools in the country, I believe. It was 490 out of 10,000. That's a testament to the teachers and the staff, and of course the students here. If the district's academics and overall high school experience, for that matter, begin to suffer, we're not going to have the growth that we need to get moving forward out of this financial issue. Speaking of the finances, I'd like to promote fiscal responsibility by continuing to prepare the district's finances through sound, logical, fact-based decision-making. It's been said we need to do this with a surgical precision, and I agree with that assessment. A slow and steady climb from where we are at now will ensure that we do not forsake the academic excellence which we have become known for. and while improving, we still have a long way to go around the finances. And finally, I'd like to protect the district's reputation. For all those negative stories you've heard for the past 2 years, I'm sure you can find 3 more positive ones. I want that to be front and center. While obviously we cannot forget the sins of the past, it's not going to do us any good if we continue to relive them. We need to move forward as a community and rebuild the reputation of Lincoln Way. I want the rest of the state to know when they're looking for a place to live that District 210 is back. So on April 4th, I would humbly ask for your vote, and don't panic and vote for Janik.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Through my experience and my certifications in government auditing, I feel that I am an ideal candidate for this board. I am not a politician, I am an auditor. I have no personal agenda and no big ego. My goal is to keep the Lincoln Way education standards high while also gaining financial stability and, most importantly, community trust. Lincoln Way is a great district because of you, the parents, the teachers, and our great kids. I would be honored to serve you as a board member, and thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Town.
Tonight you've heard from a group of committed individuals who are interested in helping our district. As you think about who you would like to elect, I would like to express my commitment to the entire district and wanting to continue to ensure that we have an outstanding educational and extracurricular program for our students. I believe I can help to restore the trust in the board by emphasizing honesty, transparency, and dedication to student success. The Board of Education must move forward and plan for financial integrity by putting a strong plan into place so that we will remain strong throughout the future. I've worked at Moraine Valley Community College for 13 years, and so I am well-versed in issues relating to higher ed and the kind of things that high school students need to be ready for when they move on to that next step. I have a master's degree in education, and I'm passionate about education and the positive impact it can make on an individual's life. Similarly, a strong school district can have a positive impact on a community. And I know that we're all very proud of our district, and I would like to continue in the tradition of Lincoln Way of providing excellence to students and supporting our community. I ask for your vote in the upcoming election. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Talley.
I would like to thank the Lincoln Way Education Association and Mr. Conway for hosting this forum, as well as those in attendance for coming out tonight. There have been many different perspectives and opinions expressed by all the candidates. I hope people will take the time to think about what was said and decide for themselves which candidates they feel most comfortable with. My main goal is to allow and continue to ensure that we maximize the opportunities for students to achieve their academic goals. One of the ways to achieve this is to make sure the finances are properly managed and spent effectively and efficiently and with a purpose. And that would be for all students, from high achievers to those students who struggle to those with special needs. We need to be all-inclusive. And let me state, if I am on the board, I will never vote to close Lincoln Way West. I'm a fiscal conservative, and I do hope you like what I've said, and I hope that everyone will support myself and the other candidates on our slate. If elected, I promise to work hard, be honest, and as Spike Lee famously said, do the right thing. I do wish everyone well, and now it's time to let the voters have their say. It would be my privilege and honor to serve on the Lincoln Way Board, and so I do ask everyone to please go out and vote April 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yakos.
Again, I'd also like to thank Mr. Conway and the union for hosting the event tonight, and also everybody that came out. I think it's very important to have a high school educator on the board to help be a resource for the Board of Education, especially with my experience. I kind of know the ins and outs of how the districts run. I have a track record as activities director, increasing revenues and saving thousands for my district. I would be honored to represent and stand up for this community. We need to learn from our past mistakes and move together, forward together as a community. Our slate's platform is based on the opening discussions and getting the community involved in the decision-making process. The voice of the community will be heard on April 4th. You have heard the candidates and what they stand for. I think the choice is clear. Business as usual or change in culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yantu.
Thank you to all of you for coming out and being so enthusiastic and involved in the school district. It's very important, and we really need you to continue it beyond April 4th, regardless of who you vote for. It's critical. Thank you, Mr. Conway and LWEA, for hosting this. There's an amazing group of people up here, and I feel like this group offers something for everybody, and it's a very difficult choice for people to make. But there's something unique that me and the 4 other folks on the Citizens for 210 slate offer that nobody else offers, and that's an opportunity for a fresh start. There's been a lot of mistakes made in the past, but in my mind, the biggest mistake has been that the board did not reach out to the community and involve the community more in its processes to move the district forward in a more positive way. You can go to our website or stop outside and pick up our contract with the community. This explains exactly what we're all about. This is the only agenda we have. It's the only thing we care about, and it's about helping all of us build a better district in Lincoln Way. So I urge you to vote for me, Ben Yamtube. I'll be the second name on the 4-year candidates, and please vote for me on April 4th. Thank you.
I want to personally, again, thank all of the candidates for being here this evening. I want to thank the community. The decision will be yours on April 4th. If you know people who are going to stay home, tell them to get out and vote. And if you have more questions, and I'm sorry we didn't get to all of the questions, with 13 candidates, the logistics were challenging, to say the least. I appreciate you coming out tonight. I encourage you to contact these candidates if you have more questions. And also, as I said earlier, avail yourself of the literature that they have out in the lobby. That concludes our evening. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you to my LWEA colleagues.